Hello and welcome to Practical Inclusion. I'm coming to you today from the lands of the Wadawurrung people, and I want to start by paying my respects to their elders past and present, and to make a big call out to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islanders who are watching this show today. It always was and always will be Aboriginal land. And I'll do a big plug for Clothing the Gaps clothing company, who obviously are a social enterprise. I get all my work t-shirts from Clothing the Gaps, and I think if you can weave their apparel into your wardrobe, it's one great way we can show allyship for those of us who are white Australians or migrated to this country. Today's a family show. I've actually, Dad, you're not the first family member I've had on this show. I have had little Sky on this show when Sky was a lot littler. Today I've got the pleasure of chatting, having a chat with my dad live on LinkedIn. So Dad, welcome. My camera's gone fuzzy. I'm having some issues, so I'll sort that out. Maybe while you can tell the audience a little bit about you and why I would possibly get you on a practical inclusion show.
Okay, thank you, Bree. Yeah, you are looking fuzzy. You've got this Doris Day effect. Some people won't understand what I mean there.
No.
So I think you've asked me along to talk about the group that I've instigated on the Bellarine, and it's spreading a little bit further, called Shedding the Blues, which includes people who are at retirement age, are nearing retirement age, or have gone well past retirement age. And it's a way of connecting them to their community through music. So what we've done is spread the word that here's a group that will promote healthy living, healthy lifestyle, plus give you a chance to interact with others through your love and our shared love of music. So I guess it's come from the fact that as I was reaching retirement, I had many years in the education sector, as you know, often at pretty stressful levels with lots of demands as a school principal. And let me say, I'm glad I'm not doing that right now. As a principal of principals, and then more recently at a central level in New South Wales, looking after 2,500 schools and something like 75,000 teaching and non-teaching staff. So what I had seen from others in my cohort who were reaching or had reached retirement is that unless they were already in a social group, already started to work towards a retirement purpose, or were so interested in their hobby that it was going to fill that structure that they'd had in their work lives. And I could see where we live on the Bellarine, we're very fortunate to do that. I could see people wandering aimlessly because that structure had been lost. So I had a chat to a couple of people I knew who had been in similar roles leading up to their retirement. I sort of eased myself into retirement by setting up my own consultancy practice after the formal side of public service had ended. So around 2011, and from then I've been reviewing schools. I've been involved in leadership programs for school leaders, involved in taking school leaders on fact-finding missions. We went to Shanghai with a group in 2017, really to see how we could open people's eyes to the world, because Australia is not only isolated, it's very monolinguistic. And if you don't have those connections through your language or your culture, and I know that's increasing at the moment or of late, but it was just, it sort of dawned on me that these people need a connection, and they may not want to go to a men's shed. I mean, if I went to a men's shed, I'd be handless within a week. my fingers will be chopped off. There's no doubt about that. And I see you're laughing at that because
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's the brain that's got me through, not the hands, if you know what I mean. So, however, we have people in Shedding the Blues, which is what we called the group, who are fantastic with their hands, and they make musical instruments. And last year we actually repaired a bunch of instruments for kids who go to schools in disadvantaged areas. So we just wandered in, did an audit, took some tools in and fixed their pianos and fixed their drum kits and guitars and ukuleles and whatnot. And it's given these people a purpose. Yeah. And the feedback I keep getting from them is we've now got somewhere to go on a weekly basis. We can connect with others. We can do what we love doing, which is either playing music or listening to it or talking about it. And we can also share with the community the skills that we have or the interests that we have. And who doesn't like listening to a bit of good music? So we busk around the place. We play at events where we're invited to play. We've got 3 offshoot bands who play here and there for community enjoyment, not for funds, although sometimes we do get some donations which just get pooled back in again to fix instruments. We're writing submissions all the time. So the Borough of Queenscliff and the City of Geelong have been very helpful around that. The Geelong Community Foundation and organisations like that see that where we've got a story and we're actually contributing to A, the community, but B, to each other. And it's sort of moved from, it's interesting, the questions that people ask when they show up on a Tuesday used to be, what have you been doing? And now it's, how are you going? And how can we help with what you've been doing rather than just what have you been doing? Because it's a bit like kids coming home from school. What'd you do today? Well, nothing. But ask them how they're feeling, how they're going, and there's that bit of connection. And we've now got people who meet for the 2 hours and then hop off to a coffee shop to talk about their lives, their challenges, and so on. So it's been quite useful that way.
I really like that kind of dual purpose of the group. It's absolutely, providing that connection and as you've described, that purpose for the members of the group, but also in the way that music does, right, that shares that joy and that engagement with others and that sense of community by creating spaces that others can engage with.
And it's interesting you say double purpose because that was the whole idea behind the name we chose. We wanted it to be a place, not that we've got our own place at the moment. We use rented facilities, but we wanted it to be a location that people could come to, so a shed. We have a metaphorical shed rather than a physical shed. And we wanted the blues side of it to both talk about music and not just blues music, although we have got a brilliant offshoot band called the Shedman Blues Band, who just got together organically and started playing this magnificent music. And the blues also being a preventative strategy. So not necessarily clinically, remediating depression or feeling low, but as a prevention. We're not the clinicians who come in or the counsellors, but if someone clearly demonstrates or discloses that they're in need of some help, we encourage them to head to the right spot, and that's happened quite a number of occasions.
Yeah, awesome. So I have a question here that potentially some of the people who tune into Practical Inclusion might be sitting there going, "Oh my God, a men's music group. What about everybody else?"
Yeah.
You are describing a group of people who in some ways have experienced a lot of privilege in their lives. Can you explain how that, where that gets to now? You've described a little bit of how that loss of purpose and whatever happens. Why a men's group?
Okay. That's a good question. And it was actually when we launched it in February 2020, we had Libby Coker come along to do the launch for us, the local federal member, and she asked the same question. Why are you establishing a men's group? And the answer was, we're not. It's not a men's group. It's a group that focuses on men's health issues. Yes, we have all genders in our group. We've got a fantastic saxophone player who comes along. She just plays by ear and just joins in. We have a renowned children's author who comes along with her ukulele. She's written stories about environmental aspects for kids, plus ukulele teaching books, if you like. So, but we make it clear that over time, men tend not to share. Okay, now because the issues that we attack or address, they're quite broad. For instance, our workshops last year on the health side of things were getting a good night's sleep. Well, that's pretty general. The other one was how to deal with anxiety and stress. Again, general. So while we don't actually focus on only men's issues, clearly we have attracted more men than not. But it's a health/music group that focuses on, I guess, an area that's been abandoned a bit or left neglected a bit, which is men sharing their health issues. And those health issues could be family issues. It doesn't have to be their own personal issues. A lot of the people who come along are grandparents like myself, and many of them are struggling with issues that rise from their extended families. And so we try to have as many events as we can where they invite people along to them. If they show up, fantastic. So, yeah, look, it takes me back. I think it was W.C. Fields. I'll explain that. When I was working in Tamworth, I joined the local Rotary Club. And as I was looking for which club, because there were 4 clubs in the town, and because I'd just been appointed as the Regional Director of Education, they all actually invited me along to speak to them about our vision for education, public education in the New England area. So I went to 3 of them, I think, in the end. And the first one I went to was just fantastic, and it was morning, so I was quite happy. I was thinking I'll join this one. Great for networking around the town. The second one I went to was men only, and it had only been men only. And when they publicly asked me to join at the end of my speech, I said, look, I'm really sorry, but as W.C. Fields says, I just can't be a member of a group that won't have my wife as a member. And so I joined the morning group. So I think it's the same thing. It was interesting when we were setting up Shedding the Blues, a couple of people left after the 3rd meeting because they raised the issue of this is for men only, isn't it? And around the table there was instant no. Men's health issues are also my partner's issues because I'm taking that home. So a couple of them left. They said, no, excuse this, but one of them said, we don't want this group to be contaminated. So he's not with us anymore in the group. It just wasn't for him.
Yeah. So I like that focus being on providing space for people to talk about things that they would perhaps not talk about or not engage with in other spaces or don't have spaces where they can.
Exactly. And when we did have our workshops, which were partially funded by the Borough of Queenscliff, we opened that up to everyone, of course. And it was really a 50-50 split of people coming along to those workshops, which was fantastic.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm keen for you to share maybe some of the stories, like the personal stories, without obviously identifying people, giving that away. But what are people? You've explained a little bit, but what are some of the kind of aha moments you've had of things that people are getting out of this initiative?
It was interesting because when we first sent out an indication that we were meeting down at the Queenscliff Neighbourhood House to talk about this idea, I'd spoken to a couple of people about it, and they said, yeah, this could be a goer. When we sent out messages to people, one I got back was, this will save my life. Thank you very much for thinking of this. I'm at a loose end. I love my music. I suffer from a range of mental health issues. This will save my life. And I thought that was for me, that was a hard to keep going
To do it.
with this. As I mentioned before, it's great to hear the questions are, what have you been doing to, how are you going? And of course, that always brings the issue of, well, what if they say they're really struggling? Well, we do talk about that. And most people will say, why don't you meet me for a cup of coffee next week and we'll have a chat about that. So it's an encouragement thing rather than a, you need to. You need to get to your doctor. You need to do this. You need to do that.
Yeah.
The other, I guess, is when you see people who've come into the group, because the way we structure it is we meet on a Tuesday, we have a theme. So the theme might be rivers, songs about rivers, songs about hope.
Okay.
It could be songs by Neil Young. So it could be that specific, or songs from the Beatles' White Album. So what we found initially was those who were quite competent would jump up in an instant, and we would send out the list of songs for the next week on our update that I send out every Friday night, and then the song charts get posted on our website. So our website is not flash, it's a working website. It's just got songs and charts and events, basically, as you've probably seen. And I keep getting email messages from people saying, give us some money and we can fix your website for you. But it works.
Yeah.
Anyway, what tended to happen was the same 4 or 5 people would be leading the song and teaching the rest of us, fair enough. Some would be playing along, some would be sitting and listening. But the aha is when somebody says, oh, I know a great song about the colour red, but I'm not good enough to get up there with you. And then one of the competent people will say, meet you around at my house on Tuesday night and we'll go through that song. I'll accompany you. We'll do a bit of harmony with it and we'll get it right. And so because they've got people with them who know what they're doing, they can learn new chords, they can learn new strum patterns, and the confidence I've noticed in getting up in public, and this will happen on Sunday, we'll talk about soon, some of those people would never have got up in public. And I can't say I'm one of them because I'm a show-off, but and I've sort of taught music in primary schools only because no one else would. But some of the people, are buskers. They go out busking on the weekend, so they're fine. But others who have just picked up, often their partners bought them a guitar for their retirement.
Right.
Maybe to keep them in the garage playing out of the way. Not many bought drum kits, by the way, but
Interesting.
and that's probably saved a few marriages. But so they're just learning, and in fact, a couple of people have made guitars for others. And we had one guy in the group who started and belongs to a group called Guitars for Vets. So if a Vietnam vet contacts him, he gives them a guitar and 10 free lessons. And he's got that through funding here, there and everywhere. A lot of it RSL funding. But and we've got 2 or 3 people who have been beneficiaries of those brand new fantastic guitars and 10 lessons. And that's built their confidence up so that now they'll quite happily jump up and lead a song, not just play along with a song.
Yeah. What I really like about hearing about this, particularly for the audience, is you're also providing some really clear ideas and steps as to how you create those connecting spaces, and how you take a group of strangers essentially, and start building that connection through, in this case, you've grabbed music as your tool, but it could be anything too, right? That really creates those space for people to feel that they're empowered, as you say, to be the trainers, to be teaching others, to be using skills, and then to do things like getting in front of crowds when they would never have done that in their entire lives.
Or when we actually worked on kids' instruments, talking to kids about their musical journey, and the kids talking back to them about what they love about music. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, awesome. So can we just talk a little bit about ageism? We have kind of touched on it. Recently, the Geelong Cats, who are our local football team, not yours, but mine, won the premiership for the AFL. And they were a team of much older players than what you typically see in the AFL. And they were told that they were too old and too slow. And so they won the premiership and decided on Mad Monday that they would all dress up as old men. Said the slogan was too old, too slow, too good, which seemed quite fitting and a nice, funny, harmless joke for a Mad Monday, because we know those things can get quite outrageous. However, there were certainly people in the Geelong community who arced up about it, and said that they actually found it quite offensive. I'm interested in your thoughts about that, but also, how does ageism play out for you on a daily basis? Does it, doesn't it? What are your thoughts around that topic?
Okay, look, it was interesting when I saw the vision of the guys falling out of the bus and chattering away. I thought it was just funny, and as a group, we've got people who are near their 90s. We've got people who are in their 40s. We play up the the age of us, just as those footballers did, but we're actually living it. They're pretending. So I couldn't see why anyone would take offence to that, given that we often talk about that. In fact, I mentioned there are 3 groups playing on Sunday. One's the blues band. Another one is playing 30s and 40s Tin Pan Alley stuff, and we had to come up with a name. And I think I upset some people by saying, "Oh, it's clear your name's got to be the Old Fockers." And they said, "No, that's insulting." I said, "All right." So someone else suggested we call ourselves the Nostalgics. So we've actually come up with the Tragic Nostalgics.
Okay.
So you've just got to take the piss a little bit about getting old, because everybody does, or those who are lucky do get old. The other groups call themselves the unfinished business, and which I guess is an attack against people thinking once you're at a certain age, you're invisible, you're not useful anymore. We tend to overcome that by being useful to the community, by putting smiles on people's faces, getting out and about. We've got uniforms, which I didn't wear today because I'm keeping it clean for Sunday. And so really, how have I noticed ageism taking place? Yeah, sometimes you do feel a bit invisible around the community. And I notice that a lot of friends I talk to almost have to stand on their digs to insist on the same quality of service, communication, etc., with those people that they deal with in the commercial side of things. And most of them don't do it rudely, but sometimes you've just got to, well, actually, I was here before that young upstart who's just trying to push me out of the queue. So, it's you can see it. You can see it on, sometimes I watch on a Monday night, Have You Been Paying Attention? And poor old Tom Gleisner, who's not anywhere near as old as me, cops it for being the oldest in the group. And sometimes those jokes can be just quite persistent. I like it when there's a joke, move on. But when you get a little bit persistent about it, I reckon that can turn some people off. So you just got to be a bit careful around that.
Yeah, nice. So tell us about Sunday. What is Sunday?
Okay, so we've called this tune-up, and I have to give credit to the other member of our family, Briley, your younger sister, for coming up with that name. We were trying to come up with a name for an event which we ran in April this year, which got the community out and about again in a safe environment. We were very COVID restricted, but the town hall in Queenscliff was the venue. We wanted a headline act, but we also wanted around the edge and beforehand health-related workshops, health-related displays. And when I say health, it's a very broad sense of health. I mean, one guy was selling his old musical instruments because that's hobby-based, that's pastime-based. It's filling in your leisure time, and it's recycling, really. We had the local climate action group in Queenscliff running an activity out the front. We had a group called the Compassionate Hearts on the Bellarine, which are people who befriend lonely people, which was fantastic. We had the Bellarine Art School, who really focus on children lessons after school, although they do have many adults in their group. So it was quite a mix, and it worked really well. And we had about 400 people throughout the day wandering in and out, food stalls, etc. But the whole purpose was, after the 2 years of COVID, was getting people out and about again in a safe manner and getting them to enjoy. We had people up there dancing, and the feedback, the review we put together was very, very positive. So we thought we'd run another one next year. However, the funding was for this year from the City of Geelong, so it has to fit into this year. So we're actually running 2 this year. Sundays in Ocean Grove at the Shell Road Sports Pavilion, which is the Ocean Grove Football and Netball Club rooms. And starting at 11, we've got some of our guys busking out the front. We've got the tables again set up around health related. And we've got a suite of musical performances by community groups, like the Tides of Welcome Choir, the Sea of Ukes, the Willow Studio Singing School, 2 of our own bands, the Tragic Nostalgics and the Unfinished Business, and the Shedman Blues Band. And then because of the funding, we've been able to book Sam Hansen and 10 High Fly, which is a fantastic group that'll appeal to the younger brigade. And then the Bash Big Band to finish off the day, 12-piece, huge sound. Everyone will get into that sort of music, I think. A bit like around the Commitments style of music. You won't remember the Commitments, but some of us will.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's free, and it's just wander, sit down, have a listen, go out and have some food at the Vietnamese food house or the coffee van outside, go home, come back for the evening session, whatever you want to do, just to get people, again, connecting, out and about connecting.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it absolutely builds a sense of pride in me in the stuff that you're doing, the way that you're using your retirement years to create this sense of connection for people. And I've been to a couple of the events now, and you can see they get packed out and people really enjoy listening and obviously playing and engaging in the session. So thanks for coming on today
My pleasure.
Sharing that. I know to all the listeners it's a little bit outside my usual practical inclusion conversations, but I thought you might enjoy hearing about that. And if you are in the region, getting yourself down to tune up on Sunday will be a good thing to do.
Be more than welcome.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Dad. And thanks everybody for listening in. Just as a quick little shout out, I have, just as of yesterday, advertised a new position within the business as a diversity, equity and inclusion project officer. You can check that ad out on LinkedIn. If you're keen, let me know. I'm really desperately in need of some help and support with some of the projects that we've got going. And so I'd be really happy to chat to you. And obviously, I'm strongly encouraging people from any type of background, particularly people who have lived experience of exclusion, marginalisation or underrepresentation. So please reach out to me. Don't assume that you're not the person I'm looking for. I really want to hear from as many people who are interested as possible, and we'll run a process from there.
Can 70-year-olds apply?
Yes, there's no ageism here. You and I have done a project together before, and
We have?
I was happy with your work.
Oh, thank you.
That was actually a really great thing that you and I did at the start of my business, and it really helped me find my feet and learn about consulting. So I look back very fondly on that project.
Yeah, it was good.
All right, thanks everyone, and I'll catch you next time.
Thank you.